All right, so again, if you're not in my class and you don't understand the backstory of this, but I have a stack of T-shirts that I come to school. I like to wear at least one a week that has usually a reference to some kind of philosopher, um, and I have a couple of them that have to do with Karl Marx. But I have them that deal with other philosophers and important thinkers of Sigmund Freud, Immanuel Kant, um, you know, Carl Jung. I have a whole bunch of them that reference some kind of philosophical concept, and they're usually kind of silly and funny shirts. And I don't want to be an advertisement for any particular shirt company, but if you're interested in in getting shirts like this, you can simply Google philosophy T-shirts, and you'll get a website that you can get these shirts from, or history T-shirts or sociology T-shirts. Just Google it, and you'll be able to be just like me. All right, so wow, dreams. Yeah. Yeah, I do think dreams mean something. So my backstory on this is I did for a while. I studied dream analysis, and this was pre-sociology days. I studied dream analysis mostly because my father suffers from nightmares most nights, and having to deal with that with him calling out at night because he's having a bad dream. I decided to look into dreams, and I also had some dream issues myself that I wanted to understand a little better. So I went into the books and I went into studying a little bit about dream analysis. I think the prevailing opinion on dreams is that dreams are basically your mind's way of sorting information, and then dreams themselves don't really mean anything beyond that. I don't think that's the case. I think our brains are meaning-making instruments. And I think that our brains take in a lot of information, whether we're aware of the information that we're taking in or not. And that our brains will automatically try to make sense of that information. That being said, not all of the information is sensible, right? Some of it is random. Some of it is, information that we get from our environment. They're pieces of conversations that we pick up out of context, that make it difficult for us to maybe understand the true meaning of these particular things. But our minds and our brains are going to try to make meaning out of it. It's the same phenomenon as when you look up at the clouds and you see fluffy bunnies, or you see horses running, or you see, President Obama or whatever in the clouds. Well, the clouds are not shaping that way for you. They are random accumulations of moisture. But your brain looks at it and looks for patterns and looks for meaning and then passes that down to you. So then what I think is, well, the meanings that we find in dreams probably have more to do with who we are than they do necessarily the dreams themselves. So to use my cloud analogy, if I'm seeing fluffy bunnies in the sky, that's a reflection of, my thinking and my, what I'm inclined to perceive. Where somebody else may look at that and see something different. They may see, a bowl of soup or whatever. I don't know. So I think one of the models that I like to use when I'm thinking about dreams and I get asked about dreams is I like to try to figure out, all right, well, the things that stand out in your dream, in what ways are they related to you? So one of the things that I say when people are asking me about their dreams is that the things in your dreams are reflections. They are you. All of the things that are taking place in the dream there's some part of you. Um, they are self-reflective. So if you see your mother in a dream, right? Well, it's not really your mom. It's not really your mother. It is a reflection of you that is associated in your mind with your mother. So how? In what way? In what way are you seeing that connection? In what way is the context of your mother in the dream related to something that you're experiencing and thinking about and considering and pondering and insecure about it? There's a lot of insecurities associated with dreams, fears associated with dreams, strong emotions associated with dreams. And so I do think that they're meaningful, but the meaning is derived from us thinking about them. We dream every night, right? Whether we know it or not, we dream every night. But we don't always remember our dreams. Typically, we remember the dreams that we wake up during. So we then reflect on it, and it's in that process of reflecting that the dreams become meaningful. The dreams may not necessarily be intrinsically meaningful, but our reflection on those dreams is what becomes meaningful. So what are you getting out of this dream? What kind of meaningful patterns are you making, and then what can you derive out of that? What can you see from that, and what can you learn from that? That makes your life a little better. And if you can do that, then yeah, the dreams are gonna be meaningful. All right, so somebody asked me about Eurovision. I don't watch Eurovision, so I really don't have an opinion on the subject. If you like it, great. If not, okay. I didn't. I thought maybe okay, and I don't know much about Eurovision, so maybe I'll look it up and I'll do some research. But I didn't want to do that because I don't think that's an honest way to answer these questions. So I don't have an opinion on Eurovision. That's all I got. All right. So the question is about my favorite historical event or person. That's a tough one. It's changed over time. So for a very long time, I studied Napoleonic history. I thought Napoleon was really very, very fascinating, and he is. He's a fascinating guy, an amazing personal story. Not necessarily a particularly good person, right? But after studying Napoleon and Napoleonic history and going into the French Revolution and stuff. I started really kind of getting interested in, I read Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, and I started to really get more interested in the more, I guess, maybe obscure histories and the people who aren't the Napoleons, who have entire eras named after themselves. I started getting more into them, and more into, people who put themselves on the line to do what's right, which is not Napoleon, right? I find them a lot more interesting than, say, the Napoleons or the Franklin Roosevelts and that group of folks. So who'd that be? I mean, Daniel Ellsberg, who revealed the Pentagon Papers, Edward Snowden, who revealed domestic spying in the United States, Eugene Debs, who went to prison for speaking out against World War One. These are, Eugene Debs is a pretty important figure of his time. So these are some folks that I think are really very fascinating. Angela Davis. There's quite a few. I mean, there's a lot of folks who they were not people who are seeking greatness. They're people who are just kind of trying to do what's right. and are willing to, put themselves on the line for doing that. I think that's a really I think those are the folks that we probably need to study a little bit more in depth, right? And study the motivations, and probably instead of admiring, say, the Napoleons, or I mean, one of the things that we get into when we study folks like this, George Washington, these great historical figures, these great icons in many ways, is when you scratch and dig below, when you dig below the surface, you start to, you realize it's kind of like the saying about meeting your heroes, right? Well, studying the history of your heroes is dangerous as well, because what you end up finding is that your heroes are a lot more human than you gave them credit for. That they had human failings, and that they had that they weren't always good people. They and then sometimes the folks that we study and think are bad people, or not always bad people. People are complex. People are complicated. And I want to be able to study people in the human context. I want to be able to study people, warts and all. I think that's what makes people interesting. I feel the same way about historical events. So when we think about historical events, I think about, I used to think about Waterloo, and I used to think about Pearl Harbor, these transformational events. But sometimes I like to, lately in the last 20 years or so, I've been more interested in the less famous events. I was very inspired by the Great Railroad Strike in 1877. That was a huge event. Some of the events that don't necessarily get talked about all the time, that maybe they should be talked about a little bit more. And then of course, there are events that have taken place within my own lifetime that probably need to be elaborated on, that we need to study. The fall of the Soviet Union, right? The fall of the Berlin Wall. I mean, that was an amazing moment in time. 9/11 was huge, right? Some of these things that were events, but like the Occupy movement that happened a few years back, that I had the good fortune to participate in, at least in a minimal way. These were important events. This was an event that changed our national conversation about wealth and inequality. So and it's typically not considered one of the great events, right? But it was huge. It was an important event. And I'm very interested in those events that change our understanding of the world. That change. In sociology, we refer to it as the discourse, right? How we talk about things. Those are events that I think, and I think that's why I brought up Occupy, because Occupy did that. It changed. It gave us a discourse for understanding inequality, right? The 1% versus the 99%. That has been influential. That has changed the course of politics and how we think about things. So these are just some. I don't necessarily know if I have a specific favorite historical event or favorite person, but this is some of the thinking that I like to do. All right, so this question, I think this question was sent to me. It's very, very long and very involved. This is going to probably be the only question that I actually edit down, because it'll just take you too long to read. But the question basically amounts to, the backstory on this question has to do with a conversation I had in class, in my sociology class, that was related to the topic, about information technology, social media, and things along those lines, and a discussion with regard to, I think the discussion had to do with efficiency and a concept in sociology we call McDonaldization, which has to do with efficient production of goods in this case, but also can be broken down into, increased efficiencies in our everyday lives, including efficiencies with regard to how we talk about things and how we know things and how we get information. And balancing this notion of efficiency with quality. And it's a complicated question, and the question is, like I said, very, very long, so I'll probably have to break this one down. But the question basically is, can we have efficient and high quality knowledge? And I think my initial response to this, again, none of this is scripted. I've not spent any time researching this, but I think the answer to this question is yes, but not in the way that you think. So what we've done is we've created this technology, the internet and social media, which when I have the good fortune of having come of age before the internet and as the internet was becoming a thing. So when I think I was probably toward the end of my my bachelor's degree in college, where I started to be able to use the internet as a research resource. My school was hooked up to what was called WebLewis, and we could go on WebLewis and we could look up articles that we needed for our research papers and stuff like that. And then when I didn't have anything to do with the internet much after that, except then when I went into my master's degree, which was about 4 or 5 years after getting my bachelor's degree. Then the internet was more significant. There were websites, and so we're looking at the mid 1990s. So I got to see the world as without the internet and participate in it at a college level, at an adult level, and then start to see the internet emerge in my 20s, and it was really exciting because we really, really thought that that here we had this resource that ultimately what it would do, it would link all of the knowledge in the world and put it at our fingertips, and we would be able to use it and do these amazing things. And we can do those things. But what we've done is we've created this universe where we have very, very efficient access to information. And we have very, very efficient access to all of the information that's out there. And that's at least recorded. And this efficiency of access does not necessarily translate into quality outcomes and quality output. And so I guess to answer the question, I think we need to understand, I think we look at the internet as kind of like a library. And I think we need to look, or as maybe we look at it as a community, I don't know, but I think we need to look at things like libraries or the internet or social media as tools. And every tool that was ever invented was invented to make doing something more efficient. And in this case, the internet was designed to make accessing information more efficient. So an air hammer makes driving nails more efficient. But my ability to drive nails efficiently doesn't mean that I know how to build a house, right? So then the emphasis then becomes, all right, we have this way of accessing information efficiently. How do we use it? And I think that's where the quality comes from. I don't think we're going to create a tool that automatically helps us get a higher quality of information. I don't think that's out there. Just like having a tool that helps me more efficiently drive nails isn't going to help me build a quality house. to build a quality house, I have to practice the skill. I have to go out and I have to learn how to build a quality house. And then I can use these tools that make my life a lot more efficient. I can use them to produce the quality product that I want to produce. So I think when we're looking at information technology, we're looking at things like the internet, we're looking at things like social media, we have to ask ourselves, okay, how do I use this information to produce a quality product? And so when it comes to accessing knowledge and accessing information, it's up to me to develop the skill set by which I can go and I can get access to this knowledge. I can evaluate the knowledge for its worth. I can understand the limits of this knowledge. And then what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to do what academics, and I think this question is geared toward academics, I'm going to do what academics have always done. I'm going to find ways of analyzing and synthesizing and developing that knowledge into something greater, into something that adds a different kind of knowledge to the world, a quality knowledge to the world. But it's up to me to do that. It's up to me to make sure that the quality of my output is high. I can't rely on technology to do that for me. The technology is simply there as a tool to help me more efficiently do the job that I want to do, to build the house that I want to build. It's up to me and it's up to you to develop those skill sets by which you're using this efficient access to knowledge to produce quality output, quality knowledge on the back end. And the only way to do that is to learn the skills. That is a skill. That's not a technology. So I guess to answer the question is no, I don't think there's going to be a technology that does this for us. But I think we can learn and develop the skills, and we can develop the norms and values associated with developing, using this knowledge to produce a quality output. I could go. I keep a blog, the Mad Sociologist blog. I could go on there every single day and put something out there, and I would probably have a lot more followers. I would probably, I'd have, I could probably produce stuff that'll get a lot of attention all the time. But that's not my goal. My goal with that blog is to say something when I have something to say, and to not say something just to say something. My goal is to produce a quality product. Now, some posts are better than others, obviously, but consequently, I oftentimes only write maybe 2 or 3 posts a month. Sometimes I'll go a whole month without writing a post because I don't have anything of quality to say. I don't have anything to add to the conversation. I don't want this medium of mine to simply be used for background noise. So I try to use, Plato's aphorism, a wise man speaks because he has something to say, a fool speaks because he has to say something. I don't want my output to simply just be the, fool's talk, right? Where I'm saying something just because I have to put something out there to get the likes, to get the attention, to get the clicks, to get the traffic to my website. I don't want to get into that. I want to actually produce something of quality. And that's something that I put on myself to develop those skills. And that's something that you as students in this knowledge environment are just going to have to do. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have. We had some questions that were really in depth there, some really deep questions. Hopefully I gave you some really deep answers, and maybe as we approach summer, I'll throw this out again, and if you want to participate, I'll include the link that you can send the questions to me, and we can participate. I did get some questions from folks who were not my students, which I thought was interesting and fun. So you don't have to be one of my students to ask the questions. If you go to MrAndoshiusClassroom.net, you'll see I have a page dedicated to asking me questions and answering questions. I've had students and teachers ask me questions that I've responded on the website for, and then these videos are always fun. So I'll see you in I guess a few months, and maybe we'll do this again.